Why are you working on it? How do you want to work on it? Then you say that the research is viable. I mean, the topic is viable. If the topic is viable, you don't go long and start writing. You can do a little minor study just to be sure that the topic is viable. The first thing is that once you have the topic, you know what you want to do. Try to pick, especially if you are going to administer questionnaire, you are going to collect data from this place or that place. Try and do it on a small scale so that you don't waste your money and time. If you do it on a small scale, you get certain responses, you know where to correct your mistakes, you know the challenges you are likely to face, you will be able to decide whether to go ahead right with it or to stop. So that is called a final study. Let me test you whether this thing is doable. Once it's doable, then you can continue with that. Now, literature review. In literature review, we are looking at a comprehensive summary of previous research topics. What does it mean? I said it earlier, you cannot write if you don't read. You have to read what you find on ground, what other people have done around your work or even on the topic you are writing. Usually, there will be studies that have been carried out in from different perspectives in your study. Now that you want to talk about it, you need to also read what has been done so that you don't repeat what other people have said. Two, you will know which areas are left for you to work on. And when you are able to read different parts of the literature, you will know that this is what it means. So, in literature review, you are going to read articles, books, and other resources that are relevant to your study. And when you are reviewing, you are expected to perform certain actions. Number one, you enumerate. You look at the different aspects, different things that have been said in this world. You describe whatever I think the author of this work have done. You must be able to tell us about them, which means that you must need to understand what they are saying first before you can perform all these wonders. Then you summarize. You objectively evaluate. Take note. Objectively evaluate. How do you evaluate? You want to see whether they are okay or they are not. Are they suitable or they are not? The research was properly carried out or they were not. You need to tell us that. And then you clarify previous research. Really, under previous research, people look at ideas from different perspectives. Certain scholars will take a position, another set of scholars will take another position, which contradicts the first one. Some people will be neutral. It is your job to know who is neutral, who is positive, who is negative, and then which of them do you support, which of them do you not support, or even if you are not supporting any of them, what is your own position? Now, in literature review, you are not expected to just report according to BIMC 2025, this thing and this thing and this thing happened. BIMC went ahead to do this and this and that. Then you go to another person, according to Akoji 20 or 2000. This and things and this occur. No, you are going to group them according to their position. If 3-4 authors align with one position, discuss their position. Look at the weaknesses, look at the strength. This other group, bring them to a group, discuss their positions, look at the differences, look at their weaknesses and strengths. Then bring your own idea. What do you feel about it? Because the leader is actually interested in your own opinion. This is your work. You are reading other people's work just to tell us that, okay, other people have done this one, but there is a particular position that I'm taking. If there are now, in reading there now, you now see gaps, you will now focus on the gaps. To say, okay, this is the area I want to work on. So, literature review also enables you to acknowledge previous ideas. Maybe you also have your own ideas, but other people have written about that idea before you. If you don't read that work and you write, you'll be accused of plagiarism, which is a serious crime in scholarship. So by reading other people's work, the idea that you have, that other people have read, will have to be discarded. You have to acknowledge that, okay, you read them. Or if your own idea is different, you know, say, okay, although my idea is different, this person has taken this idea, but I'm looking at it from this other perspective. Let us know where their own stops and where your own starts. So, you acknowledge previous scholarship, and then you assure the reader that the work has been well conceived. The purpose of literature review is to convey to the reader what ideas have been established on the topic and what their strengths and weaknesses are. That summarizes literature review. But let me just give you, okay, let's continue, because there's an analogy I want to make somewhere. Now, when you collect materials from different sources, they are not of the same standard. Some of them are good for you, some of them are not good for you. That is why you have to evaluate your sources of information. Just go on the internet and look for papers. There will be different papers available to you. But what is the status of each of them? Some of them were written by graduates. Some of them are written by PhD holder. Some of them are written by professors. So, if a graduate writes something that is very good, and a professor also writes something that is very good, which of them is more likely to be solid? You want to say that of the professor, because the professor has an image to protect. He has a name to protect. So he will not want to put something that is not okay on the internet for you. But the graduate student is just starting. He may not know about this or that. He may not even know that I made a mistake. So you have to choose wisely. Two, if you are reading a book, you have just got a book that was published in 2000, in the year 2000. But there may be another one that has been published in maybe 1974. The tendency that is to look at that one that was published in 1974 as an old book, and you will be right. You cannot recycling old ideas, except that book has become a classic. What is a classic? A book that has been reprinted, reproduced, revised, and it's still existing. It was published in 1974, really, but it has been revised, has been improved upon almost every 5 years, and up still in 2025, it is still available. You prefer that book to a book that has never been revised, a book that has never been reprinted. You know, when you look at certain books, the second page of that about, you are going to see the number of reprints, the number of years that the book have been reprinted, the number of years that have been revised. These are signs that this book is a very good book. A book that does not have that kind of revision or reprinting is not as good as the first one. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's not as good as the one that has been reprinted, revised, and all that. Some books are actually not good. Let me tell you this for a fact. Well, in the publishing industry, there's something called hungry authors. In secondary schools, our teachers will write books and force us to buy them. We call them hungry authors because such books might not have gone through the normal processes of publishing. And what are the normal processes? You give it to an editor, the editor will look at it, will tell you the weaknesses and strength of it, and then you do corrections and you print. But for some of these hungry authors, they don't do that kind of thing. They just write it on their own and they go ahead and publish. Such books will be avoided. So generally, you have to evaluate your materials before you use them. Now, look at what they say, even in the argument. First of all, you look at the author's expertise in the field. Is the person a known person in the field? A professor of classics, for instance. Can you trust him when he writes on geography? No. I won't trust that professor of classics if he writes on geography. I would prefer somebody, even a PhD holder in geography. I would prefer his work to that of a professor that writes on geography. Because I know the PhD holder in geography has already gone through the various steps before he's able to get that. Then, when they argue in the work, look at the trend of argument. Some people bring their own personal biases into the study. I was supervising a student, and he was a feminist. No, it was a student, spiritual union student. So everything that had to do with Christianity, she started pushing it in the work. And I said, look, we won't go back with this kind of religion. Put religion separately. Let us look at what is on ground. That was how we were able to scale through. So you look at people's biases. If the study is too biased, it is not good as a source of information for you. Then it's just perspective, that's the bias. The selected source of contribute to a more profound understanding of the subject. What has the work contributed to the understanding of the subject? If the work is contributing anything, fine. If it's not contributing anything, why you need to add it? Don't review it at all. Some people play pranks. You don't know we are also students. They will not collect all the references at the top of the Bible. They put it at their own references that they have redeemed. No, that's not okay. Well, maybe we have to talk about that under ethics. I'm trying to get everything ready before we get that level. So that is literature review. So to review literature, you are going to find a gap that other people have not worked on, from which will not tally with your own topic. Now that you have talked topic, you have got so once you have got the gap, next is to form a problem statement. What is a problem statement? It's not supposed to be personal problem, financial problem, health problem. No. The other way of putting it is this scholarly problem. The problem in scholarship. So, you have identified the gap, quite alright. Once you have the gap, why is it a problem? You have to problematize it. People have been writing on this thing from perspectives A, B, C, and D. However, they have not been able to look at this perspective. That is a problem. Now, why should they look at it from that perspective? They are going to tell us why that place is significant. What do we miss when we are not looking at it from that perspective? What do we gain if we are looking at it from that perspective? So that means you are looking at the problem. So I summarize that a problem statement is a concise description of the problem or issues a project seeks to address. It identifies the current state, the desired future state, and any gap between the two. So that summarizes what we are saying. A problem statement leads the reader from a shared context to the perception of a problem and onto a proposed solution. In other words, everybody sees the problem, but only you has identified it as a problem. And if you see it as a problem, then you need to propose a solution to it. On that score, you have a problem statement. How do you now locate your problem? First, you establish a context for audience. Who are the people that are concerned in this aspect of the problem statement? There should be a context. What is problematic to a particular area may not be a problem in another area. So, we define that. Two, okay, I said you define the problem within that context, not outside of it. I'm in language, and I want to work on tense and aspects in English and Yoruba. My problem statement is that many students fail English because of mother tongue interference, which affects their use of tense. Anytime they want to say, I went, they will say, I go Lagos yesterday. So the problem is that I want to see how I can solve the problem of people making mistakes in English when they are from Yoruba ethnic group. So I will now say, okay, the problem is that students over the years, students of English have made mistakes on tense and aspect in the use of language. This study therefore wants to compare and contrast the tense in English and Yoruba to see where they make mistakes, why they make such mistakes, and propose solutions. That will now show the reader that this is where I'm actually going. My focus is tense and aspect. Any other thing will be just ancillary to it, will not be the main thing. So, and I will define it in the context of Yoruba speakers of English. Now, this may not be correct when I get to the geography. They have no business with Yoruba and English. Well, they must speak their English the way they like. But for those of us in language, we are looking at tense and aspect. That's why I said you have to locate that problem in a particular context. So, eventually you are going to propose a solution to the problem. And what solution am I going to propose? I'm going to propose that when I compare English and Yoruba tenses, I will see what problems the Yoruba speaker of English will have with tense usage in English, and then offer suggestions as to how to remedy such problems. That will be my problem statement. So to write a problem statement, you do a few things. One, you put the problem in context. What do we already know about this? All of us know that when we speak English, we make mistakes. We make mistakes about gender. When I want to refer to the female, I say, he came yesterday. That is a problem. Problem of gender issues in grammar. When I want to use tense, I make mistakes again. But I'm not combining the two. I'm using only one of them. That is, we are delineating the problem we want to focus on. Two, we want to describe the precise issue the study will address. So I'm focusing on only tense and aspect. I'm not combining with gender or any other issue that may occur. Three, show the relevance of the problem. Why do we need to study tense and aspect? Simply because I want the person to be able to speak or write better in English. Because when they go to international communities, they will be able to speak better. If they are not able to speak better, perhaps they will not be understood, or people will look down on them. So you said the objectives of the research. What will you find out? We discussed that other objectives of the study. So you describe how things will work, explain the problem and state why it matters, and then you back up your claims with good evidence. Then, I know we are from different backgrounds here, whether you are in arts, you are in art or science or social sciences or whatever. So we use research questions or hypotheses. The research questions will address certain areas that we want to bring out for people to understand. Your topic will have different strands to read, different perspectives from which we can discuss that topic, so that people will be better educated about it. So for that, you need research questions. Each of the research questions will question each of these different strands, so that eventually, when you answer the different questions, you'll be able to make a robust contribution to knowledge in terms of that work. Then, the research question guides the investigator from data collection to analysis. It helps to collect relevant and insightful information that influences your study. Generally, all those aspects that the question will require answers. By the time you bring the answers to the fore, you will solve most of the problems. The problem statement should be clear and focused. To go straight to the point. Don't put so many ideas on the same question. Ask only one question about one idea that you want to put forward. And make sure that it is capable of being answered within the time and resources that you have. Take note, time and resources. Research questions require investigation and analysis rather than a simple fact check. You are going to provide additional information, perhaps from your data analysis, perhaps from your interviews. So data research questions address important topics or fill in gaps of knowledge. That's just like research question. What about hypothesis? We don't usually use hypothesis in the arts. Maybe occasionally studies that require yes or no answers use it. But I know you use it in the sciences and the social sciences. So what about the hypothesis? The hypothesis is a testable, tentative explanation or educated guess about the relationship between two or more variables. What do I mean? You know rats now. You now say that if we feed rats for 6 weeks, it will get fat. You have to test. It's something that you can prove. So you get 100 rats, you feed 80 of them very well, you don't feed the other one very well. Your hypothesis will not be, if we feed them for 6 months, it will get fat. If you don't feed them for 6 weeks, they will not get fat. That is the hypothesis that can be tested, because hypotheses are meant to be tested. So it is used in the sciences. It serves as the foundation of an experiment. Usually when you perform an experiment, you need hypothesis. So your hypothesis should be testable, specific, and clear. If your hypothesis is not clear, there's no way you are going to get the right answer. It should be based on knowledge. Well, I'm not in the animal science, so I'm just giving my example that is a raw thing now. Okay, rats can get fat. It can be something more scientific than that. But that will be based on knowledge that you have in that area of a study. It says the expected outcome. The expected outcome of my own experiment is that when you feed rats for 6 weeks, it will get fat. If you don't feed them for 6 weeks, it will not get fat. Those are my own conclusions. Those conclusions will not be what I'm testing, whether it will be confirmed or it will not be confirmed. So if the hypothesis is confirmed, you have two positions: the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. In the null hypothesis, it proposes that there is a relationship, difference, or effect between variables. If it is the null, it proves that a relationship or difference exists. Either way, when it is agreeable, you say it is null hypothesis. If it's not agreeable, you say okay, the thing is of edge. So those are the two aspects of hypothesis. But take note, we don't normally use hypothesis in the humanities. We use this several times in the sciences. Aim and objectives. Now you have your topic, now you have the problem statement. You have to define your aim and objectives. What is your aim? Your aim is what you want to do. What is the objective? The objective is what you get by performing the aim that you put forward. So, every researcher has a focus, and that focus is your aim. The aim of a study is the main goal or overarching purpose in a study. That is what a researcher is investigating. The aim states why a research is needed. Maybe you put all the context, what it set out to accomplish, that is the actual aim, and briefly, how it intends to accomplish it. So generally, you are going to state what you want to do in that work, and that is aim. Take note, it is in the singular. It is not aims. It is, you have an aim, but you are going to have objectives, maybe 3, maybe 4 or 5. So the aim should be simple and explicit. Once you keep on writing up to 3, 4, 5 lines, your aim is already being too complex. When you combine 2, 3, 4 ideas in one sentence, your aim is getting too complex. Give us one and phrase in such a way that it is possible to identify it when it has been achieved. That is the aim. What about objectives? Objectives present the details of the aim. It outlines the specific steps that you will take to achieve your research aims. Take note that we talk about research questions. Your research questions should actually feed your objectives. Your research questions should lead to your objectives. Although they may not be in one-to-one correspondence, but then there should be some kind of relationship, some kind of proof that will make you identify whether you have achieved what you have in the objectives or not. So the objectives must define why, what, how, and when questions. That is, you are going to ask certain questions under the research questions. In the objectives, you are going to state it. The objective is to do this, to do that, to identify, to find out, or to highlight this and that. These are different things you can get. The aim and objectives of a study will establish the scope, depth, and direction of the study. What is the scope? This is the area that the study will cover. The depth, how deep do you want to go? How much information do you really wish to give out? And then the direction. Which perspective are you going in your discourse? The objectives, the aim and objectives will define that. So the objectives of a study are the goals you hope to achieve. I think I've said that earlier. They are the threads you want to follow in realizing the aim of the study. Each objective points to a line of investigation to satisfy a yearning quest in the study or to fill a gap in the study. So by discussing each objective, by providing answers to each objective, you are going to have a comprehensive or a robust discussion on that topic that you have chosen. So all objectives put together are complementary. They complement one another, providing answers to different aspects of the study. We have said too much about objectives. I'm going to skip this slide. Then, let's talk about SMART. SMART is an acronym. It has each of the letters has a different meaning. The aim and objective should follow the principle of SMART. SR means specific. That means you have to be specific about what you are doing or what you are going to do in that study. 2, measurable. You should be able to measure your success in the study. Now, we have goals that we want to achieve in that study. You should be able to measure whether you have actually achieved the goals or not. If you have not, what percentage have you achieved? It's very important. And when you go along with your study, you should be able to measure them one by one. 3, achievable. The goals are really achievable. Is it something you can do? No, if you are attempting too much, you won't finish it on time. And if you attempt less, you finish on time. So it's better to look at what you can handle within the specific period that you are allowed to write the project. Then, is it realistic? Is your topic realistic? Or is your project really realistic? You are going to ask yourself whether you have necessary support resources and facilities required to do that business. In terms of time, do you have sufficient time to finish that project? Money, do you have enough money to proceed? Sometimes you are going to travel to different places. Sometimes you need to make copies of questionnaire. Can you produce 1,000 copies of a questionnaire? Do you have the resources to go about distributing them and retrieving them? Those are the things to consider. What about skills? Let me give you a little gist. When I was going to write my PhD, I was going to work on computational linguistics. It was not as popular as it is. Then it was very new. So I wanted to work on it because I liked it and it was in my area. So I told my supervisor, I wanted to work on it. So the first question he asked me was, are you computer literate? And I said, no, sir. And question 2, do you have a computer? I said, no, sir. I said, okay, if you want to work on continual linguistics, you need to be able to operate on the computer. You need to have one to yourself. I said, don't worry. I can get a computer from the computer science department. Then he asked me, did you buy the computer for them? And I said, no, no. So obviously, my interest is there, but my interest was there, but I did not have, one, the skills, two, the tools. There's no way you go to computer science department and say, please, I'm from the Department of English. I want to work on computational linguistics. Please, lend me your computer, let me be using it. It's not possible. Or even if you have a friend that has a computer that you want to use, today you borrow your friend's computer. Tomorrow you borrow it. Later they will say, okay, I need my computer today. Please go and get your own. So it will be a difficult thing. So you need to look at where you belong before you start. You look at it, what is realistic before you start your topic. Then look at the time constraint. If you have a topic, you have sufficient time. Will you have sufficient time to finish that topic that you have chosen? If not, you have to remodify it. That means to say that your topic can be revised over and over again, depending on new challenges that you have. You can twist it this way or that way until the final day. That is smart. Now go to conceptual framework, where they go together with theoretical framework. In conceptual framework, there are certain concepts that are relevant to your work, or that are relevant to the understanding of your work. So if people are going to understand what you are saying, and from the perspective from which you want them to understand it, you are going to have to tell us about certain concepts that are relevant. So these concepts are in the literature, they are in the books, they are in different ways. Your job is to pick the different aspects and bring them, discuss them in the work, and show us how they are relevant to your work. So, you find that in the theoretical conceptual framework. Closely related to that is the theoretical framework. There are different theories, and the spine of your work is the theory that you choose. Sometimes you choose one, sometimes you choose more than one, but it is advisable to choose the one that is directly relevant to work. If a theory is deficient one way or the other, and it cannot do all the work you want it to do in your study, you can add another one to it so that you have two theories. But don't do window dressing, because they say I can use the three theories, so I'm going to use three theories. No. Every step you take in research must have a reason, must be justifiable. If you cannot justify using a particular theory, you drop that theory. You have to use a theory that is appropriate for your study. Otherwise, not many people will take you seriously. I don't want to read these things line by line. That is just a summary of the theoretical framework. Why is theoretical framework important? One, it forces the researcher to address questions of why and how. You know, really, you want to interpret your data, you soon get to data collection. Whatever raw materials you have, there are certain things you have to do to them to make readers understand what you are saying. So, it's your job to be able to use the data to interpret, to be able to use the theory to interpret some of the aspects of the data that you want people to know about. That is one aspect. Two, it helps the researcher to identify the limits of certain generalizations that have been made. Sometimes, some people have made some claims in previous work. By the time you apply your own theory, you may arrive at a different thing entirely. So, you look at that one too. The goal of theoretical framework is to present and explain theories and models that other researchers have already developed, which goes back to our literature review. If you are taking your time to read the literature properly, to identify certain things, that is where your theory will come. The theory will explain theories and models that other researchers have already developed. You can explain it. You can say, no, what they are doing has not been properly done. Since there are many theories available, the theoretical framework also involves evaluating, comparing, and selecting the most relevant. I think I said that earlier. The choosing framework enables people leaders to be more aware of assumptions that inform your approach. Again, it serves as a background to understanding your work. The theoretical framework lays the foundations that will support your analysis, help you to interpret your results, and make broader generalizations. Again, it assists the analysis. But in literature, for instance, a scholar using postmodernist theory will analyze great Gatsby differently from a scholar using Marxist literary theory. What I'm trying to say is that if you use a particular theory, there's a tendency that you arrive at an answer that will be different from another person that uses another literary theory, another theory, if the two theories are in effect. So your theory plays a role in your interpretation of the data. And when you are discussing, it will show. The reader or the examiner will understand what you are saying. Data collection. What is data? Data is the raw materials for making inferences, reaching conclusions, and preparing generalizations in research. Well, let me just compare data to the clothes we wear. If we are attending the wedding ceremony next month, and the celebrants have given us the sample of the cloth we are going to sew. So that cloth will be our data. I will go to my house and sew my own thing as agbada and trousers. Somebody else will sew our own as a hero and boba. The materials are on ground, but what you make out of it is your own production. So the data will be there, but what you make out of the data is your own contribution to knowledge. So that's why I refer to it as the raw materials. So what about data collection? It is the process of gathering and categorizing relevant information that can be used to make decisions about specific situations. So which means that in collecting data, you have procedures for gathering data, for collecting the data, you have procedures for analyzing it, you have procedure for interpreting the data to suit whatever interest you want it to suit. And there are different types of data. You have the primary data. That is the one you go out to collect on your own. Your primary data is tied to your own goal. You have a reason for collecting that data. So, with the goal in mind, you go out to collect data. Then you have the secondary data. For this one, some people have really collected the data for you. Well, not specifically for you. They collected it on their own. But you realize that the data they have collected is actually relevant to your own. So you go there and ask for it. For instance, I want to know the result of WAEC. WAEC result for about 10 years. You go to WAEC and collect them if they give you, all well and good. Or you go to UCH, you collect the details of parts or debt for a particular number of years. The data has been collected for you. Your job is just to go there and collect it. So that one is the secondary data. We also have qualitative data. Data that involves maybe textbooks, newspaper articles, data that involves photographs, or things of that sort. That is qualitative, something you can describe, you can discuss. And the next one is quantitative data, the one that is numerical. It has to do with numbering. Of course, when you collect your data using questionnaire, you may start talking about quantitative data too, because you have to start looking at statistical tools that you are going to use to analyze the data. So, for data collection, there are different methods that you can use. I have listed some here, like the interview. The interview is like structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. There are some interviews require yes or no answer. Excuse me, sir. Please answer this question. Do you like listen to radio? Yes, sir. Do you do this one? No. Yes, no. It can be like that. Sometimes you have some questions that requires more detailed information. Sometimes you have face-to-face interview. You go to the person. Good morning, sir. What is your name? What is your opinion about this? What do you do if this is happening? Are you aware of this person? Say yes. If you are aware, what is your opinion about it? So these are different forms of questionnaire. Some of them are put as a form of questionnaire. Some of them are put as face-to-face something. Then you have the real questionnaire and surveys. Sometimes the questionnaire is closed. Sometimes it's not. It's open. When it is closed, you have provided the answer there, yes or no. If it is open, it means that you have not provided the answer. Let the respondent fill in the gaps. So you get that. Then, observation. You can also collect data through observation. Well, in my own area, English, we have what is called oral literature. If you go to a Google festival, you want to know how they do the audio, they perform their festival, you have to join them, you have to start dancing with them to see how they do the thing. That is participant observation. Or in a classroom, you want to know how people study from the educational. You sit down in class, or you watch how the teacher is teaching them. That is participant observation. Then you can look at records and documents. Certain documents are on ground. Like the right things I talked about, you can look at them. You can look at people's photographs. You can look at cuttings from newspapers and put them as your data. You can have focus groups. You want to know how farmers perform, how farmers yield, how their crop perform this year. And you are interested in maybe food crops. So you are going to get yam farmers, tomato farmers, beans farmers, and you put them in the same area, in the same hall. Then you ask them questions, let them discuss. That is focus group discussion. So you get your data from there. Then you have data from oral or live study. Well, not all of these will be applicable in all areas. It's only some of them that are applicable in some areas, depending on the topic you are talking about. So talk about oral or life histories. You ask somebody to tell you about his life history, or about what happens in a particular situation. You can collect your data from there. You can also use online analytical tools. You go online, you tell us this is what you want. You ask people to supply data. And people from different walks of life will supply you data. That is the online analytics. You are using a particular website. Talk about Google Analytics. Then you also have experiments. This one you are testing your hypothesis in the laboratories. You put all your chemicals around. Maybe is it you take chlorine and you want to merge it with sulfur. How does it turn out? That is experimental. So you're testing cause and effect, relationships, and all that. So you may sometimes need to validate your data. Thank you. For instance, if you generate data by introspection, what is introspection, especially in language? I speak Yoruba, and I want data from Yoruba. So I can produce my own data because I know I can speak the language properly. But I need to validate the data because I should not just assume that everybody will understand my own language. So when I generate my data, I want to show it to maybe 3-5 people to be sure that what I wrote was actually okay as a Yoruba, for a Yoruba person. When you get your data on ground, then the next step is data analysis. Data analysis and discussion of findings. Data analysis is the process of evaluating data. How do you evaluate data? The first thing is to be sure that you collect the appropriate data. If there are errors in the data that will spoil your own analysis, you remove them. You choose the one that you consider accurate data. Next is to now describe and illustrate the features found in the data. Take note that you already know your goals, you know where what you want to do. That one will inform you to pick out certain things from the data. You categorize the data, you put them into sections. What you are doing is you are analyzing data. You are putting them in different categories, and then by putting them in different categories, you are also bringing out ideas. You are interpreting the data. That is what it means when you say you are illustrating the features of data, interpreting it. So it's a process of inspecting, cleansing. When I say cleansing, the ones that are not okay for you, you remove them. You use the ones that are okay. Then transforming and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, informing conclusions, and supporting decision making. Because it is the data that will inform whatever contributions we are going to make in knowledge. I didn't follow you to collect your data. You are the one writing it, so you should be able to interpret it from your own perspective. It is the science of examining a set of data to draw conclusions about the information, to be able to make decisions, or simply to expand the knowledge on various subjects. So those are different aspects of data analysis and discussion. Well, there are three methods of data analysis. You have the qualitative analysis. You don't need numerical thing about that. You have quantitative analysis. You also have mixed methods where you mix both types of analysis. So, your discussion of data will give us the result of your research, a discussion of related research. This is very important because you cannot be alone in your research. I said some people must have written something about your topic or about it. You can now affirm what those people have said, if they are correct, or debunk false claims. They have made a claim that this is this. Now you realize that they were wrong. So you say that, well, your data does not support their claim. Say, therefore, you are different. And so you have the comparison between your result and initial hypothesis. You have the hypothesis that says this. It is here that you can say your hypothesis is confirmed or the hypothesis is not confirmed. Eventually, you are going to summarize your key findings in clear and concise language. Once you have done that, you have to start writing your work from chapter 1, depending on your supervisor. Some people prefer you write chapter by chapter. Some people say, okay, write everything. But whatever it is you do, you cannot forget language. So let's talk about language and style. Your language is very important, especially as final year student. You should not see any grammatical infelicities in your work. You should be able to protect your work so that there are no grammatical errors. Number 2, there are different varieties of English. All of us use English as a language of communication, but there are varieties of English. British English, which is preferred by the University of Ibadan. We have American English. We also have Nigerian English. And apart from this one, there are other varieties of English outside the country. For your project, I suggest you use only one variety, and that is British English. But if the only one you want to use is American English, all well and good, you'll be allowed. But it is a crime for you to mix them. You use British English here, American English, then Nigerian English. No. Choose one and stick to it. But don't use Nigerian English because it has not yet been accepted as a standard form of communication. British English is okay, American English is allowed. You also need to be formal. Of course, you can chat with your friends. When you write the way you like. But when it is academic reform, you have to use formal English. And using formal English means that you are going to obey all the conventions of formal English. You cannot be using the short forms, won't, can't. No, you say cannot, will not, shall not. That is falsely. You cannot use colloquial language. You cannot use elements of informal expressions. It's not allowed in your research. Now, when your subject involves another language, the language of communication in your project is English. But you are bringing another language, maybe it is Latin, Yoruba. You have got to the page and they gave you the name of a particular thing as Yoruba. You have to write Yoruba and put the translation in bracket. If it is a whole sentence, you have to give us a clause of the sentence, or at least provide a translation of that expression. The thing is that somebody else who doesn't speak Yoruba, who doesn't speak that language you are quoting, may read your work. So if you don't translate it, he will not know what you are saying. So it's better for us to translate such expressions for ease of communication. Avoid using first person pronoun. I went to the field and I collected my data. No. It's better to put the researcher at the background. The focus of the work is the research. So you can say data was collected at so place. The thing was done. You won't say who did it. We already know that you did it. So you cannot say I collected my data from Isayi. You say data were collected from so place in Isayi. That is the appropriate. So you have to avoid using personal pronoun like mine, I, we. Then the report are usually written in the third person. That is, since we are reporting, we are going to say things, you are the first person really, and the person you are talking to is the second person. So the third person is the what you are talking about. Since we are reporting it, we are going to be reporting in the third person form. You must label all your tables, charts, graphs, figures, and put meaningful titles. Each of them must have a title, so we know what you are talking about, or what the graphs are about. And they should be numbered consecutively. Table 1, table 2, figure 1, table 2, and so on and so forth. You should avoid using long, winding, unwieldy sentences. What do I mean? When your sentence is so long that it's getting to 5 lines, 6 lines, it's going to be difficult for the reader because by the time he gets to the end of that sentence, he had forgotten what he wrote at the beginning of the sentence. So you should have a mixture of simple, compound, and complex sentences. Follow the formal citation of UI manual of style. I don't know whether it is done in your area, in your department, but the manual of style is very important and you have to follow it. If you are not using UI manual of style, whatever manual of style you are asked to use, you must follow it into it. The references are as important as what you wrote there, but that is where you acknowledge your sources of information. You should avoid verbosity. Sometimes you want to impress readers, and so you keep on saying things you could have said in 1 word or 2 words in so many words. For example, instead of saying because, you said instead of where is it now? Due to the fact that 5 words, but you could have said because, which is just 1 word. When you use the appropriate word, your work becomes elegant, sophisticated. But when you use verbosity, it becomes drab. It's so irritating. You can use to instead of another to. First instead of in the first place. You can see you waste words in that context. Correct your use of tense. Make sure you don't have tense shift. You start with present tense, you end in past tense, or vice versa. It's not acceptable. Avoid using slang expression, okay, like what I said earlier. If you must use them, put their meanings beside them in brackets. Keep your language simple. You don't win, you don't gain extra mark by going ahead to use very difficult words. If I'm reading your word, I have to go and check a dictionary before I understand what I'm saying. What does it mean? You have not gained anything. In fact, you have wasted my time. So use the language of the research, of your field. Don't use too many jargons, except it is relevant. You are not showing up to anybody by saying, yes, they say we should use this, I'm going to keep on using it. No, use them appropriately because each area has its own register. Avoid phrases that could be interpreted as racial or sexist. If you are working on a topic that has to do with female and male gender, and you are saying, because we are female now, you are saying that male gender are better than male gender. What if the external examiner is a male gender? You now say, okay, see this one. Or if you are male, you are not taking your side with male. You say the female gender are this and that. What if the external examiner is the female gender? But if generally it's not scholarly, for you to be taking side as a researcher, you should be at the middle. You should be objective. So, I guess the sense of Hello? Can you hear me? Good. So let's talk about ethical considerations. Ethics has to do with issues of morality in research. It portrays the best practices in conducting research. What does that mean? It means that whatever it is, we need to do things as we are supposed to do. There are certain ways that research is conducted. You have to follow the same pattern. One of them is that you have to avoid plagiarism, whether it is intended or unintended. Plagiarism is plagiarism. You must avoid it. How do you avoid it? Well, for the intended one, you don't have to actually not do. For the intended plagiarism, you saw a person's book, you copy it, a person's paper, you copy it, that is intended plagiarism. But the one that is intended, you didn't know how to do it. So you committed the offense out of ignorance. You have to learn how to read the person's ideas and convert it to your own word. Say it in your own words. That is not plagiarism. But when you craftily bring up people's ideas from their work and you lead them to your work, that is plagiarism. And it's an unpardonable offense. Take note of that. 2, obtain informed consent where necessary. Especially for those of us in the health sciences, when you are to collect data, you need to ask for consent. Even if you want to take people's photograph, ask for consent. You go to the people's to hospital to collect data, you are going to have what is called informed consent. There's a difference between consent and informed consent. You tell the person, this is what I'm going to do. This is why I'm doing it, and this is the result I expect. So I would like you to allow me to do this, or you will do this for me, for my project. That person will allow you. Sometimes it will be you are going to go through a particular committee on ethics to do so. But it's very important. And when you do that, you are going to give us a certificate that indeed you collected that informed consent form. Some people in secondary school and primary schools are vulnerable. Some people are sick, they are vulnerable. That's why we need to take their consent. And if you want to collect data from me, when you come to my office, you will greet me. Okay, I'm working on this and this. Please, will you fill this personnel for me? If I take it from you, that means I've consented. I'll take it from you. So, next one, you have to respect people's privacy, anonymity, confidentiality. Because we are giving you a service. If you come to collect data from me now, and I tell you that, look, I am, I don't know what you can say. Okay, my father is a farmer, and my father is actually a subsistence farmer. He only have a tractor, and we live on that farm. After the data, because we are friends, we want to play with my Baba there. You know, you have destroyed that aspect of me. Maybe I'm not proud of the father that is a subsistence farmer. You cannot play with that kind of thing. And even when you now go ahead to say the presence of our friends, that I bet Baba there, bring the yam from tomorrow. It's not okay. Or you don't tell your friend, please don't tell anybody. Do you know that that person is a social person? That sells goods on the roadside. He told you in confidence, so you cannot go ahead and expose that person. Somebody tells you that it's a court member because they are collecting data. I now write in your work that it's a court member. And you tell your friend, run away from him, it's a court member. Don't do that, you become a target. So, for some of these things, there's a problem. You have to observe privacy. Whatever it is they tell you in confidence. Two, anonymity. Don't write their name in your work. You can acknowledge them in some other ways. If you must write, then maybe you put some kind of pseudonym for them. Okay. I'm almost done. So, are there confidentiality? You don't discuss them anywhere else. Next, do not falsify data. Do not doctor your data. When you doctor your data, you are trying to make sure that it suits your own purpose. No. Interpret the data the way you collected it. The only thing you can do with your data is that if certain aspects of the data are not good for you, remove them totally. Don't twist them to satisfy your own needs. That is why when you are able to produce your data, you need to show it to somebody else to verify. So, not falsify data, you can also not doctor data. There was a particular person that wanted to fool his supervisor. He gathered his friend in the room. He was in education. He was now using his friends as a student. Eventually, he had to fail. Don't think that you don't know all the pranks that students can play. You are also students. So don't play pranks on your supervisor. You will get to know. So do not cook up data from nowhere for whatever reason. That is what my friend did. He couldn't go to the field. He gathered his friend and he collected data from you. That is, we are picking up data. Or you sit down in your own room and say, okay, what can we do? You do something. Even if your supervisor does not know, does not detect it, you are not doing best for the society. You benefited from the society, from the books you read. You are supposed to also give back. Is that what you are giving back? That's not good. And then do not pay ahead for someone to give you data. Because you want to collect data from somebody, you can't give them money. For instance, you have to speak Hausa for you. I can speak some little Hausa, but if you not give me any money, I say, okay, if you can speak Hausa, 20,000 naira. I'll collect the money, I'll keep on. I know you don't understand Hausa, so now to give you different forms of the Hausa. And then avoid AI and ChatGPT. These ones are actually allowed in the university, but up to a maximum of say 20%. But I will advise that don't even use at all, because by using them, you are going to lose your ability to analyze it. It's better for you to analyze your data and get support afterwards. Finally, when you notice an error in your work, in your data, especially in language, you can put SIC in bracket to show that this is not my error. It is the error that I got from my own data. Instead of correcting that error yourself, don't correct it. Put it there that this is the way I collected my error, I collected my data, and this is the way I'm presenting it. So, with that, I guess we have come to the end of this presentation. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Really appreciate the effort. Although, if you say that the time given to you is enough, one is enough, because we know how many days per week or how many hours per week some of our lecturer we come to class to what? To give us lecture, particularly to what? Research. Now, as I said at the beginning of this event, that I am the class rep of this club. Now, it's high time you all have to submit your notes. Yes, you have to submit your notes. You cannot submit your note now. Let's say a sheet of paper, we are doing a test. Abisa, you should do just a test. And now, a sheet of paper. Bolike, I know you. Bolike, you play Blonine. One more with them. Let's start calling names. Okay, let's read that. Okay, I'll just likely, probably, it's kind of a redo, but let's say, can we call it educational in some sense? Some of what we've learned so far, we try as much as possible to give response to some of these videos. The first video. I begin with a question, but I am not confused. I guide the whole journey and help produce the news. What am I? Should I repeat the question again? I begin with a question, but I am not confused. I guide the whole journey and help produce the news. What am I? I don't know. I should come again. Okay, the question again. I begin with a question, but I am not confused. I guide the whole journey and help produce the news. What am I? If I should say the answer, every one of us, we are going to give you item 7. Agreed? Agreed? You see someone say about it? The answer is research question. Okay, the next question. I am written at the end, but appear at the beginning. I summarize everything without realizing every meaning. What am I? Our sister, I'll put it tomorrow. Should we go on? The next question. Okay? Researchers fear me when I'm too short because I may not represent all. I am chosen carefully before the test to make the finding truly best. What am I? Reference. Objectives. No. Sample size. Thank you. The fourth question. I help avoid stealing ideas, though I am not a police officer. Scholars use me to give respect to another researcher. What am I? Reference or citation. Thank you. Should we go on? Okay. Or should we do Timmy and TB? Okay, the next one. I test your prediction to see if it is true. Researcher form me first before the study is true. What am I? Okay, the sixth one. I contain books, journals, and past ideas, helping researchers avoid old errors and fears. I review what others have already said. Okay, we are not doing anything regarding. Okay, we can see go for the sunset and start more better. Okay, let's go on another level. Okay. If a cock should lay egg on the top of the roof, is it rolling to the east or to the west? If a cock should lay egg on the roof, will it roll to the right or to the left? Cock does not lay egg. Was this time to roll down? Okay, what about you are on the Red Sea and you are putting on a yellow cap. If you keep your yellow cap into the Red Sea, what color will it become? It will become wet. Okay. The more you take, the more you leave behind. Full step. Thank you. That's for that. I hope what our lecturer said you truly understand. Because I can see that from the question, we are able to point out that we truly understand. Maybe because we are from the first and the best institution in Nigeria. And of the greatest UI. Now, we'll be moving on to the next thing we have for today, and that will be the panelist session. That's whereby we have our panelists help us with some of the questions we final year students are likely to ask, and their views and opinion on some of these questions. Like I said earlier, we are final year, no matter what level we are. Like some of us are baby final year, some of us are teenage final year, and some of us are adult final year. You know yourself, be proud. Alhamdulillah, 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 you are here. Some people you started 100 level together, and today, wallah, we are nowhere to be found. Wallah, you are meant to be proud. Some of us, we are meant to have, like, at times you just sit down, you just, so much to be loved. You just look back like, I must make mama proud. I must make daddy proud. Timba did it and the mother support them will drop out. Mo see dada. You know, some of this kind of thing is a lot, wallah, is a lot. And let's say, Jazakumullah to everyone sitting down beside you. It's not loud. Should I speak Yoruba? My Yoruba is not polished though. You know Yoruba so there and a lot. Yes. And Yakubu wa to manage. Ẹjọ́ kó sì máa manage lọ. Ẹ̀yin onísùúrù ní kí wà lọ́lọ́run wa. Jazakumullah khairan. And for our panel session, we have some of our esteemed lecturers also from our university also to help us, to enlighten us, as I said earlier, on how some of the questions or some of the difficulties final year students can have. We have Dr. Mutiat T. Oladejo from the Faculty of Arts, Department of History. It's not easy. Ọ̀sán pé tọmọdé ò bá bá kíni tí ò bá bá tàn á bá wọ̀ bá. If you want to learn everything about the history of, you can just go to our DM, the history. I'm sure she's a historian. And from the Faculty of Technology. Faculty of what? Tech. I want tech bro. Our sisters, I'm sure you people like, I want tech bro. Oh my God. We have Dr. H.A. Alabi. And we are some of our sisters, Sister Zainab Ajiyobi Ojo will help us with one of the citations. Then we have Sister Fasasi Hamida.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
It is indeed a great privilege and honor to stand before this distinguished gathering today to introduce a scholar, a mentor, an academician whose contributions to teaching, research, and intellectual development have continued to inspire many students and colleagues alike. Before the panel session proceeds, it is my honor to formally present and read the citation of this respected lecturer whose achievements and service speaks volumes of excellence and professionalism. Dr. Habib Adedotu Alabi. He is a lecturer one in the Department of Agricultural and Environmental Engineering, Faculty of Technology, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Having advanced from lecturer 2 in January 2023, 2000 bachelor's project and one master's dissertation with several additional students currently under his mentorship. Administratively, he has served as departmental undergraduate coordinator, acting sub-dean, undergraduate, and currently serving as assistant postgraduate coordinator. Dr. Alabi's research addresses pressing challenges in water resources, sustainable land management, and climate resilience. He has contributed to scholarly knowledge through book chapters, conference papers, and journal articles published in national and international outlets. His publications include work on evapotranspiration.
In just 1 month, only the aspects that you need for your work, you will be able to learn and master it. And what you also need to know is that when you say from concept to crown, that crown is not only about your grade. It is about the intellectual property. It is about the skills that you are able to own after the research. So please and please, don't be a lazy researcher and try to hold your skills as you are about to start your research if you have not started.
Jazakumullah khairan. Concerning the issue of SPSS, would you like to give us more insight on it, and if you're struggling with it, how do you think you can actually go about it?
Well, SPSS, I do know it's related to quantitative research and the likes. While that is not a type of research that is applicable to all disciplines, because let me state here that when we are saying SPSS, it applies to those in the sciences, it applies to those in the embodiment of science generally. It also may apply to some kinds of research in education and the social sciences. However, in the humanities, necessarily, except you are in a collaborative research, if you are in the humanities, you don't need to bother yourself about what SPSS has to offer. Because in the humanities, we really deal with that. We deal with qualitative research. But I know that beyond here, if you move out of here and you want to take your career as a researcher, a multidisciplinary researcher for that matter, then you need to get grounded in all these aspects of doing research across disciplines. Because for one thing is that research in this part of the world is WALLED, WALLED. That is, if you are in biochemistry, your research is limited to the methodology in biochemistry. It doesn't have to do with the methodology in microbiology or something. But then, at times, you have a kind of cross-disciplinary researches. Now, when you get out of the university, this is afterlife of your life here. When you get out of the university and you want to take research as a career, you need to be well-grounded in all these aspects. And even if you are in the sciences, you also need to be well-grounded in the way research is done in the humanities. Let me give you an instance. Years back, about 15 or 16 years ago, a researcher in what you call renewable natural resources now, is everything was under Faculty of Agriculture in UI in the past. One of the lecturers there just said, history, and the next thing he said, 1870, 1960, and I smiled because I knew that, you know what caused that? That researcher is only grounded in his own area. Are you getting my point now? So to him, he just believes that when you say history, it's just about the dates. No. But at the same time, you won't be surprised that we in history at times, we also learn the rudiments of econometrics. What do they do in econometrics? It's about mathematical modeling and so related to economics. But in history, it gets to a point in our research too that we try and understand what they do in econometrics so that we will also use it in analysis. We try and understand how statisticians work and how they derive their graphs and everything so that we will know how to use it to analyze. Okay, let me give you an instance now. In the 100 years ago in Nigerian history, we have a lot of archival materials that has to do with figures, for example. But at times, you will stare at those figures and you look at how do I interpret these figures? What do I make use of it? But along the line, I learned something. A lady came from California. She's a Nigerian, but she was born in California. She came to Nigeria and she said she's trying to map revenue documents in the archives, showing all the revenues in Nigerian history, and she's trying to put it into econometric modeling. I hope you are getting me. But at the same time, she's combining two professions. She's an economist and she's also a historian. She's an economist, meaning that all these econometrics she will be applying it, she knows so much about it, but she's also a historian, meaning that she will also be putting it into qualitative analysis. So at the end of the day, while disciplines are world presently at University of Ibadan, methodology in microbiology is different from methodology in English. But beyond here, whether you are in the sciences or you are in the humanities, eventually methodologies will cross-fertilize along the line. Thank you.
Is that no carry on now? I hope you are all taking notes because these things are actually important. So Ma, I have another question for you. So in your experience, what is the most challenging aspect of research process that you think students will find very difficult to handle?
What is the most challenging part that students find difficult to handle in research? There is no parties that they find difficult. From my experience, they find everything difficult. I'm sorry. No. They find everything difficult. Then it now looks like a situation. You know, when you have a baby now, you start teaching the baby how to use spoon, isn't it? How to use spoon, how to eat. Then the tempo goes on, how to eat fast. And that's how I see super. That's the work of supervision. And at times it is very tiring. because you encounter all categories of students. Yes, you have excellent students that are ready to work. But at the same time, you also encounter lazy students and you look at it at times like this, think, wow, what is this? And over time, in fact, we have a situation, Prof can actually attest to it, that the results would have been prepared and will be on our way to the Senate. And some students will still be in chapter 2. We've had situations that the HOD, the dean will now say, hey, you already know the capacity and personality of the students. You could actually think of imagine what score you can give the students so that the students can graduate. I find it difficult. I find that very difficult because we realize that some students are not just ready to learn the process of just doing a basic research and writing their essays for graduation. So while on our own part, it's like we are the mentors and you are the mentees, it is a process. And it is a process that involves dedication. That's why I won't say there is a path that is challenging. No path is challenging. Everything is challenging. The only thing we need on the part of the mentee is what? The dedication and what? Commitment. Again, dedication and commitment to your consideration. I've seen situations that some students are actually on a first class. But she project here, could they maintain momentum first class here? Are you getting me? It's problematic for the students. Because research is something different entirely. Now, look at these dynamics. And we have some students that they are actually on 2-2 final year. But because of that dedication and commitment to do the research, write the project and pass, they barrier is 60, I'll be 70. And that kind of changed the destiny. Have you got to change destiny from 2-2 to 2-1, or even from 2-1 to first class? So that is the reaction. So the fact that a student is scoring high marks in courses doesn't also mean that students will maintain the momentum in projects. Because project is a very important thing. Right from the process of ideation. Ideation is process of conceptualizing your topic. It takes two to tango. There are some terrible supervisors though. There are some colleagues that could be terrible in terms of their human interpersonal relations, no doubt. But at the same time, what also is the effort and commitment of the students. So that's why at the end of the day, I can't say this is the most challenging part. No, everything is challenging. The only thing that is needed is that dedication and commitment from the ideation, that is the moment you are choosing your topic. Even that choosing topic too. For instance, in my department, I have issues with students when they want to choose topic. So it is from that ideation process this is a kind of witch. Because those topics the student brought, university change one or two things. Or contractor. There is a contractor somewhere. I know that happens a lot, especially in, I don't know, don't let me mention names of places. There is already a contractor. So a number of students, they don't want to stress themselves, especially the hustler guys and the soft life ladies. Hustler guys, only business don't make stress and the soft life ladies. So they already have contractors These contractors are human beings. They now typically contractors man today for us to supervise them. You see, when you are writing your project, discipline for only some features, only method or only style. Ẹlòmíì àwa lọ gbéṣẹ́ history, a lọ gbé fún ẹni tó yẹ pé political science àbí sociology ló mọ̀ jù. Ó súnmọ́ra wọn. Àṣírí ẹ̀ṣin máa tú. Now, when the person now brings it, kí n kọ̀ nǹkan báyìí níbí. Mo lọ sí lọ, ta ló rẹ̀kọ́? The moment I say ta ló rẹ̀kọ́, I will now look at the body language of the student. I will sọ pa wọ́n bẹ́lẹ̀ ìkọ́ni. Ta ló rẹ̀kọ́? One day calling over. I will now tell the student, see, don't waste your time. Because if you allow people to buy, if you frustrate me to that level, I will just give you 45. And that's just 1 point. Unless that justifies it, after all, I can't just give you maximum amount to make effort now. That's not justice. So let me stop there.
45.
Thank you very much. Okay, man, so based on what you say about the challenges that they face, can you please tell us what mistakes you think they make and how you think they can avoid these mistakes? You see, in English they say what is worth doing is worth doing well. You won't be here forever. This is a phase. When we got to our own 400 level in 2003, it looks like that is the world. It looks like the world was going to end because you people are even enjoying now. Surely you can just go and knock on supervisor's door. You can knock on your lecturer's door and say, "Hey man, I'm with you, pamper you." Nowadays, before you do your hand on the door like this, you would have think, and rehearse. How think you would have rehearsed what you want to say? Because that generation then, if you don't talk very well, you just say, take out. You know, everything about Abaja. That is the way they will send you out of the office. And then you look at the morale, how your morale will come down. Oh, what just happened to me? That was our own. So before you talk to a lecturer, you want to practice that, you want to make sure so that they will not send you away. Now, what are the mistakes? The mistake is that number one, what is what doing well? Once your lecturer says 12 to 2 p.m. I will attend to project students. Don't go 2:05 p.m. Are you getting me? It's part of it. Discipline, not paying. If the lecturer says 12 to 2 p.m., I am attending to project students. Don't go 2:02. Make sure you go within 12 to 2 p.m. If the lecturer says, this is the way I want to consult this and these journals, consult this and these books, do it. And then the major project the only problem about project is laziness. Because what is what doing well. There are some organizations that even give prizes. Are you aware of that? Best project in Department of Physics. Over now, these prizes are there. And they give some considerable amounts to these prizes. At least I know that in our own department, in the last 2 years, an organization in America gives 1.something million to the best project in the department on Yoruba history. So, assuming now that those that got the best project, no, they didn't put in their best, and they about borrow any economy, you need to only the new life on. So, you never can even say, you can even package that project, publish it in some student journals that have web presence. Now this is the beauty of it, that has web presence. From there, scholars around the world are looking for researchers in various fields. Even last week, someone from the UK contacted me and said she saw my IIT. She's not in social sciences, she's not in humanities, she's in the sciences. But because of the peculiarity of the research she's coming up with, she needs a collaborator in the humanities. And she saw my work and she said, she just saw me on LinkedIn, on everywhere, and said, I'm the best person to collaborate with her from Nigeria. And this is not the first time I'm having that kind of collaboration, that kind of reach out. So what I'm trying to say is, if you do the research well, and you even publish in journals or student journals, you will see people from all over the world, Germany, UK, Canada, that will want to collaborate with you because of the innovation. That is where innovation comes in. Because of the innovation in the research. And in this era of unemployment, take this little thing serious, because when you say position, Yorùbá máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ kan, wọ́n bá gúnyán nínú odó, tí wọ́n wá bu ọbẹ̀ sínú èpo ẹ̀pà. You can imagine ẹni tó bá máa yó máa ṣe kí ni ó máa yó. And this is what the economy is teaching us presently now. Ìlúle, cost of living ti high jù, ìgbànigbà àwòlàwò, people are making money. You will not be people not making money. They are making money because they are looking at some details. They are looking at some things people are not looking at.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So, our next question is for Dr. Alabi.
Thank you so much. The question I'm about to ask now, she has answered a little bit part of it, but yet I will still ask you, maybe you can give me an answer on it, and give me advice on it. So, some students are interested in more than just completing and submitting their projects. How can a research project help them gain opportunities like grants, publishing their works, and open doors for future academic and career growth? And maybe once sites can recommend that they can gain from.
Okay, so more than just completing the research, just like I said earlier, the crown is not just about the grade that you get from the project. So it goes far beyond that, and one of the aspects is publishing from your research work. And publishing from your research work is one of the things that will also project you to the outside world. For instance, there is a particular student now. Okay, he has not gone for service, but immediately he finished his undergraduate studies, we worked together and he published the work. He went to UK for his master's, he's done now, and he's currently planning to go to Canada for his PhD, just in the space of 2 years that he graduated. So make sure, and it also starts from you not being lazy, because that is one of the problems that we face with students. Once they are done, in fact some students don't even submit their projects. Once they've seen that they've been graded, that is the last day you are going to see that student. So one of the approach I've been using is that at least I know you want to collect your, what is it called? You want to collect your certificate, and it is compulsory that you do clearance with your supervisor. So I don't clear you until you have submitted a manuscript from your work that will make sure that you have at least a publication from your research. And in terms of grants, I will not say it is not possible for you to get a grant for your undergraduate studies, but the space that you have to carry out the research might limit you in getting a grant at times. But there are some local grants that you can actually get, probably the Dangote, the PTDF scholarship, in terms of scholarship. Because when you say grants, at times it takes a little while. Then also, you can work with your supervisor in getting a grant. That will make it much easier because you are not experienced in that aspect. So, and at times you see that the grants that an undergraduate student will get will most likely come after they have already executed the project.
So they might give you a grant to do, probably you did a pilot scale of your research. Then you thereafter you get a grant that will make you do something that is a little bit elaborate. We have some of that in there now. Then if you are thinking of, I think another problem is the aspect of which you see research as a student and the aspect of at which you see education. Some students in class, when you tell them, some of you will come back for your masters, the way they even respond like this, you see it as if education is a taboo. They say, "Allah magic," they will never come back. And funny enough, some of them are back, some are still coming back. So make sure, just like you said, whatever it is that you are going to do it right, so that after your undergraduate studies, you will be able to compete globally with anybody from anywhere in the world. And it also starts from your publication, from your research. Make sure that your research is something that is acceptable globally. That is where the uniqueness comes from. Something that is acceptable globally. What is trending currently? Now, all those tools that you need to use, AI and the likes, the application of these tools are things that will project you globally, that will make sure that your research is what? Acceptable globally. If you want to go and do your masters in the UK, in the US, or in Canada, you are competing with other people from other African countries. And the problem with Nigeria is that our population is already limiting you. If they have 10, let's say 10 grants for Nigerians, look at the population of graduates that we have in Nigeria. Compared to somebody that is from Zambia, where their population is no more than, let's say, 40 or 30 million. So you are already limited by the population. So that means you have to do something that is more unique, globally acceptable, and the integrity of your research is also something that will assist and project you in getting grants, in getting good publications, and opportunities after your undergraduate studies.
Jazakumullah khairan, sir. This last question is for you, and I would appreciate if you can help us answer it in about 2 minutes, because we have just 2 minutes left. So many finalists are anxious about life after school. How can students begin to prepare themselves academically, professionally, and personally for life beyond university?
Thank you very much. Life after school is very wide, is very complex, and could be complicated. This university is like a wall. I'm trying to be psychological. The university is a wall. It's a wall for different reasons. All you do is from your classroom to hall to mosque, and it's a triangular life, so to speak. You don't know life yet. You don't know what life holds. And then you are also being pampered by your parents, relatively. Except for few who don't have parents who are hustling to do things for themselves. But a number of you still collect something from your parents, money for accommodation, money for food, school fees, love fund is also there, and everything. Some of you are also getting scholarships from IDB, from PTPF, from NNPC, from Chevron and all the likes. Alhamdulillah for that. However, the moment you finish your project, you submit, and you get out of the university, you finish your plans, it's a new life entirely, my brothers and sisters. It is a new life, and there is no formula. Don't let me see. Formula. You are into the world. Your parents may stop that allowance. Even if they don't stop it, they will not reduce it, because they will tell you you have younger ones that are coming that they still need to cater for. So, meaning that they are indirectly telling you, they artists, they tell you to me, yeah, that's the reality. wọ́n ti sìn ẹ́ débi tí ò ti yẹ kẹ́rù bá ẹ. So it's now left for you to pick it up. So then you will go places in the world, you will encounter different people. It is left to you how you want to survive. But the essence of the education you have in the university is that it will help you to figure out. Now, this is the point of figuring out. It will help you figure out, based on your own inner self, what you can do and what you can bring to that. And that comes to the world of what can you bring to the table of the world. So at that point, what you can bring to the table of the world is also how the world will also encounter you. Ibi tẹ́ bá ti wá pàdé ara yín tí wọ́n gbé wá sí table to the world and what the world also has to offer you. Tí gbogbo ẹ̀ bá wá jọra wọn dáadáa, kọ́lọ́ fún àlùbáríkà sí iṣẹ́ wa. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan. Please can I hear a resounding Jazakumullah khairan to our class? Now, so we've come to the end of this insightful part of our program. We actually have lots of questions for them, but because of time, we just have to ask the most significant questions. So over to you, my dearest finalists. I'll be allowing you to ask questions, just 2 questions, one from the brothers and one from the sisters. So if you know you have a question to ask, kindly ask, because we have just few minutes left. Brothers, 2 sisters have already raised their hands. Brothers, one you sit down. Our brothers are Shannon. Hello, Mubarak. Okay, so the first sister. Thank you so much for deserving welcome. Now, my question is actually on how to bring about publishing those projects. And what part of our project, is it chapter 1 or chapter 2 or so, that will be published outside the world? That's my question.
Yes, it depends on your field, it depends on the journal, it depends on... You see, journal have their styles. When you go to the website of journal, they will tell you author, information for authors, author information, you read it. So whatever format they ask for will determine how you are going to structure. Now it comes to structure. Structuring means that you may need to edit out some things you have written. You know, University of Ibadan has a style. You have followed that to graduate. But when it comes to you have graduated and you want to publish it somewhere, you will follow whatever format that of a journal, because each journal has a kind of author style that they expect you to follow.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the session. My question is based on number 1, she has asked one of the questions, and the second one is based on using AI for research actually. The fact of where Dr. Muti had said something about AI, research should be raw, then AI can be used for applicability. Can you give us an analogy that can actually explain what you mean basically?
Thank you. I'm in the humanities, but don't get me wrong. I'm not saying AI is not good or it's not applicable, but for me, this is my own. I use AI at times to go and look for something, and if it is dangerous for it, this is why it is dangerous for research. What it's bringing will not be the accurate information you need to build your research on. Look at it that way. I hope you are getting me. What it is bringing out for you to conceptualize may not be adequate enough to build your research on. So how do you do it like that? You can't solely rely on it for the beginning of a research. Now, for example, excuse me, AI can tell you something, but when you get to the rural areas where they are practicing agriculture and some other things, you will begin to see everyday life of agricultural practices that AI will capture, AI will not find. I hope you are getting me. You begin to see everyday life of agricultural practices that AI did not capture. Even in history, let me tell you something. There are some agricultural practices that are that looks like they are in extinction because it is no more practiced in contemporary times. So look at that. AI cannot have that basic information you need enough to build on. But I'm not saying it's, that's why I said I see it as useful for more of advanced stages in research. But for your level, Emma Shishiole, go away from AI first. Do the research. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
You know, I mentioned earlier, I said you have to be intelligent for you to use AI. AI can put you in a lot of trouble. For instance, just like she said, AI is going to gather information for you and is going to put references that does not exist. Let me give you one bad experience I have had with AI. I still use AI till today, but I had one bad experience. You know, people in UK, most people that jackpot, they only jackpot because they want to leave Nigeria, not because they want to go for their masters. Not all of them, sha. So there are some of them that will contract their assignments to people in Nigeria. While I was doing my PhD, those are one of the things I used to survive. I assist people in doing their assignments, but I don't use AI. So for instance, I had one, but I was so busy. I gave it to someone that we work together, and I know the guy is also sound and is going to do a good job. But he did not inform me that I won't be chance to do that assignment. He now gave it to someone else. So that person used AI completely. And me now, because I trusted the person, I just forwarded it to the client. Around to 12 midnight. So the person just sent me a message. My supervisor said this work makes sense, a lot of sense. But can you please send me these 3 references, the journals? I said there's problem. So I contacted the guy. The guy said, he's not the one that also did it. He gave it to somebody. So we later found out that the person used AI, and those references, they don't exist at all. So that means the information is even wrong. So, but for you to now use AI intelligently, for instance, you are in which department? Technology. And you work with, give me just one scenario of what you do. No, just like a project that you do in Twitter. Processes of Barbara Grant. For instance, you don't know the processes, or you want to work smartly. You now downloaded 10 journals on Barbara Grant, Barbara Grant, and you want to see the processes of probably extracting milk from Barbara Grant. You know those processes, they are going to be in the methodology of those journals that you downloaded, and some part of the introduction. So you are the one to instruct AI what to do, and that is what we call prompt engineering. So you tell AI, from the 10 documents attached, go through the introduction and the methodology of the journals. Tell me the processes involved in extracting milk from Barbara Grant. Don't look for any other information aside the documents. Don't look for information from aside from the documents that are attached. AI is not going to look outside the journals that you attach, and it is only going to focus on the introduction and the methodology. So that means your information is going to be what? Is going to be valid. So that means you are guiding AI on what you do, and you are using it intelligently. Unlike students that will just type something and they will copy and paste. Do you understand?
Thank you so much for answering the question. We really appreciate your presence here. Your mind say Allah continues to guide you. Increase in knowledge and wisdom.
No, we really appreciate our speakers and our visitors. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to tell us is the first. So, Allah is going to
Long time to learn, I like to go on and for the person I do not have any kind of I feel like I'm not using I just need to study. It's usually the because some people are